So hello, Emelie.
Hello, hello.
Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us on the fourth episode of Blab the Industry with Grace. I think you've been such an inspiration for the past months that I've been following you, I think, since December. And once I joined your community on your social media, I've learned a lot of things, a lot of inspiring things. I think you all like a drive for your community. And this is why I wanted to have you on the podcast, because 6 Minutes in a Shoe is about going into the shoes of people that are inspiring. And I know that you share like words of wisdom on your platforms, and a lot of people can gain a lot from your experience, from your journey and everything. So that's why I wanted to have you on the podcast, and I'm so grateful that you're finally here.
Oh, what an introduction. That's so cute. Thank you so much. Honestly, getting feedback from someone who doesn't personally know me and someone that is new to my brand, my business, my profile, it means a lot. And I promise it goes so much further than you realize. So thank you so much for having me on here. I'm super grateful and very, very excited.
So let's start. So can you introduce yourself the way that you want, your background? Tell us, who is Emelie?
Okay, so for everyone that's new here, I'm Emelie. I'm 28 and I currently live in Sweden. So my background, oh my God, and upbringing is far from typical, but I would say that my career path was pretty conventional up until I decided that I wanted different. And we'll lead up to that, I think. And of course, I would say that's also why I'm here today speaking to you. So my mom is from the Philippines. My dad is Swedish, but they both met in Lagos, Nigeria. So that is where I grew up. That is home for me and will always be. So I'm what you would call a third culture kid. And I would say for those who don't know what a third culture kid is, it's pretty self-explanatory. It's when both your parents are from two different cultures and they raise you in a third. And I would say that, of course, shaped me to be who I am today. If you are third culture, you also understand how your journey of life is pretty much figuring out who you are because you've never fit in anywhere. Being third culture, it has its like ups and it has its downs, but it creates very empathetic people. I've met amazing third culture kids all over the world, and yeah, I've learned a lot from just my upbringing. So that's me.
I think that's very interesting. It's like, as you say, you are like an international girl. And I think what you're doing right now, as you said, we will go further, we will talk about it further. I think what you're doing right now and having the background of having the diversity that you grew up around, I think it is something that is helping you now. And maybe you're connecting the dots. It's like maybe,
100%.
yeah. And what would you say is the most important thing for you when you connect with people around around the world with different like cultures and everything? What's the most important thing?
I mean, for me, being able to communicate is key. Like, and I think as a third culture kid, it's one of the first things you learn how to communicate with people because you want people to accept you. And it develops, skills that I would say are very, very important. And nowadays, being third culture is becoming more and more common. But I would say growing up, I felt like I was alone and there was no one like me. I have so many stories, but imagine being the only non-Nigerian in your class and almost, there was only a handful of non-Nigerians in my entire school. So it's a very unique sort of upbringing. But what it has given me is and helped me with in terms of my business, other than communication, it's learning to just speak with people, relate to people, find things you have in common. And because my background's so diverse, there's always something. Always something that you can like laugh at or connect over. So I would definitely say communication and connection.
Great. We can start with your social media because that's where I saw you. I think your platform is like a nice forum, a catalyst for change in people's life because you share on a daily basis like things to motivate your community. And I think nowadays social media, we hear a lot about personal brands. What would you
Mm,
say is your personal brand? Because sometimes I think it is not about what we say, but what we make people feel when we
mm.
talk. So what do you stand for and what is your personal brand?
I love that question. I haven't been asked that before, but having a personal brand just means being authentically you. And there is so much on the internet. If you try and copy and you try and be somebody else, people see right through it. It's not original. It's not going to help you stand out. It's not going to help your business grow. There's so many negatives with trying to be someone that you're not. You might as well be you. There is only one of you. You are unique, and you might as well do that. So my brand, I would say, other than just being authentically myself, is showing my values, showing that, for me, I want to share the honest truth. I want to share every part of my journey, the ups, the downs, the struggles, the hard work. There's no doubt. Nobody can tell me that when I become successful or when I achieve my goals in life that I didn't work for it, because I show how I work for it and I express the journey that I've gone through internally that has reflected now externally. So my values, I would say, is just being honest and vulnerable, but also being open-hearted and leading with love. Honestly, lead with love and kindness, and that is a universal language, and that's why I think it's it's a very powerful thing to lead with love. There's no other way to do it. When you have a business, you got to lead with love and passion.
I think that's something very important you said is like leading with love. And I think the best way is to serve our community the best way that we can. And I think you embody that through your vulnerability because you're a lot you're very like vulnerable, sharing like your past and talking about that. Share with us like your journey because you were like an engineer and then now you're
Mm-hmm.
like a global entrepreneur. And I think that path, I think maybe was one of the most educational for you. No? Can you tell us more about how was that journey to leave a corporate world and now building the life of your dream?
I would say it's very it's very different. Let's just start with that. Being conditioned to follow a certain path and thinking that there's no other story or journey for you to take in life, and then deciding to do something completely different is very scary. So, of course, I'm sure that most people can relate. Our grandparents and our parents have raised us in a society that says the best jobs are engineers and doctors and lawyers and dentists. That's the environment I grew up in. That's the culture I grew up in. And that was what was expected of me. So, of course, when you have parents that you respect and you want to, you want them to be proud of you, you do what they tell you to do because you don't know any different. And that is why I went into engineering. But to be very honest with you, in my gut, I always knew it wasn't for me. I was doing it for them and purely for them. And I like to explain it in a way that is relatable to people because we all have this intuition. Every human being has it. And sometimes we ignore it. There is a reason you have that intuition. It's showing you signs. So, that's something that I share a lot as well. Don't ignore something because the more you ignore your inner compass, as I like to call it, the louder it will get until you listen. And that's the journey I went through from applying for engineering at university, even though I didn't pass physics and I struggled with math. I still went. That was the first sign. And then I got my degree, a master's in architectural engineering. And then I ended up working as a structural engineer in central London. I love living in London, don't get me wrong. That was the dream, but it wasn't the dream job. And that I noticed very quickly. So I fell into a trap, maybe some people can relate, of blocking or numbing the feelings of I don't know what I want and I don't want to do this by socializing, by spending my money, by traveling, by doing all the things to avoid my problem. My problem was I wasn't doing what I wanted to do. I didn't see myself being in that position long term. So, having gone from the corporate world to then deciding, nope, I can't do this anymore. I had a mental breakdown. I called my parents crying. I was like, I can't do this anymore. And they just said, so come home. And for some reason, that wasn't an option to me. I had to plan it a year in advance because of, rent and bills and all of that stuff. And eventually, what I did was move back home to my parents, which to me as well felt like I was moving backwards in life. You're expected to move out of home, go get your job, meet someone, get married, start a family, buy a home.
The typical.
Yeah, right. The typical path. And then all of a sudden, I get my job and I move back home. And I thought, oh my God, I'm a failure, all these thoughts. And it took me a very long time to figure out what is it that I actually want to do. So I had to try things. And that's the only way you're going to know what it is. You try the things that you feel passionate about. You try the things that give you energy and make you happy. And a lot of that for me was taking care of myself, taking care of my health, my body. I ended up doing a personal trainer certificate. And then I thought, oh, this is for me. This is for me. I want to learn more about my body. I can help other people. But COVID, obviously, pandemic happened. And I ended up not pursuing that as a career. And I stumbled across, learning about wealth and financial fitness, financial literacy. It became something that I was obsessed with. I just wanted to learn how people become financially free. And it's something that I'm still very obsessed with now, of course. And that's pretty much what I started off with for my entrepreneurial career. And my business revolves around helping people become financially literate.
Great. And there's something very interesting that you said is like the moment you got the spark on like working on yourself, that was when you knew there was like something else that was waiting for you. And I think that self-worth is one of the biggest challenges that a lot of people face. It's like, I think as long as we don't know our self-worth, we will dim the light. We will dim our light. We will play small. We will shrink our potential. And sometimes all of these is accompanied by fear. Can you share like your journey to self-worth and what does self-worth actually means to you?
Okay, well, self-worth is a journey for sure. It's something that you start working on from a very young age, and it's reflected in your confidence. And that's something I've only learned this year. People ask me, like, aren't you afraid? Don't you feel like people are judging you? But that's how they would feel. It's not how I feel. We are each our individual people, and self-love is something that takes time to build. You really need to know yourself. Self-awareness and pouring into your cup is how you will build self-confidence and self-love. So I would definitely say my journey probably started when I was 14. It's really young. And the only reason it's so particular is because that's when I left home. I left home when I was 14 years old. And in home, being Nigeria at the time, I told my parents I wanted to go to school in England. And they probably looked at me like, what is wrong with this girl? Is something wrong with her? But they, they said, okay, let's see. I applied to some schools. I got in. And then I picked one. And all of a sudden, I left my entire family. I moved halfway across the world by myself. Now, at 14, that's very young to become independent. It's very young, and it's quite drastic to take someone out of the environment they've been used to and drop them into a brand new culture, brand new country, brand new school. So I very quickly had to learn how to adapt. And with learning to adapt, you also have to learn who you are, because all of a sudden you're comparing yourself to different kinds of people. And through our teenage years, that's when most of us suffer self-confidence, because we're constantly comparing ourselves to others. Social media probably doesn't help this either. But that's where my journey started. And when I quit my job as an engineer, I then had to start from scratch. That's what it felt like. Okay, so now what? What am I interested in? What am I good at? What are your abilities, that you're naturally gifted with? I had to ask myself these questions in order to create a unique, let's say, blueprint for what my unique career was going to be. And I think everyone, whether you know what you want or what you don't want, you have to create something that's as unique as you are. And no one other than yourself can tell you what that is. And that's why self-love is so important. Self-awareness is so important. So the journey is a long one, and I'm sure everyone understands that. But it takes experiences, it takes trauma, it takes failure. It's an up and down journey. It's not a straight line. I don't know if I answered your question, but I hope I did.
Yeah, because as I said, you're such an inspiring person, because like showing up every day on your stories and the confidence that you emanate, I think it's amazing, and we have to learn from you. So that's why I was really interested to know what was that journey for you to self-worth, because I think it's the foundation. Once we know the self-worth, we can start building on that. So that's where self-development comes from. So there was something I heard. It was like, if you work on your job, you make a living. But if you work on yourself, you make a fortune. I think everyone has some type of greatness in ourselves, but we play small, we don't develop our skills. It's like, I think self-development, personal development, mindset and everything is crucial for us to move forward. And I think you are the best person right here to explain more about self-development. What was your journey to self-development? Because how did you rewire your brain to, now you don't have to think about corporate world. Now it's like, I want to become my own boss. I want to build something. I want to inspire people. And I know that self-development is your forte. So tell us more about it.
Yes, I'm honestly, I'm obsessed with personal development. And I think it's something we should all be, because the more you focus on, you are your greatest asset. That's number one. So I don't know, for some reason, we aren't encouraged. I think more so now with social media and multiple platforms, podcasts and YouTube, a lot of it can be a massive distraction. But when you know that something isn't serving you anymore, and that's the point I got to when I quit my job, and I needed to pour into myself to figure out what I want, I fell into self-development. I had to develop my skills, my confidence, my awareness of who I am and what I bring to the table. And it starts with cleansing, let's just say cleansing your life of negativity, people that do not deserve to be around you, relationships that have expired, whether it be friendships or, romantic relationships, reading books, listening to podcasts, learning and borrowing. I always say it's borrowing a brain of somebody else who has created success, who is where you want to be. If you want to be an actress, you will study the best actresses and actors in the world. That's what I did with successful people. I started to study them. What do they do? How do they talk? What's their morning routine? In order to get what you want, you must become that person. To become that person, you need to pour into yourself. You need to, develop these skills. So that's kind of how I dove into it. And I do go on my stories a lot whenever I listen to something that sparks a thought, or I read a chapter in a book and it blows my mind. I go on my stories and I share it. I try and give as much value as possible every single day. That's my intention with my platform. That's my intention with coaching and mentoring people as a full-time job. I love getting people to understand that you are worthy, that you are confident, that you have everything that you need within you. You just need to pour into yourself more and focus on you, because the life that you want, the life that you envision for yourself, you put that in your brain and you've imagined it for a reason. And I honestly believe that we were put on this earth to figure out what that is. And the only way to do that is to learn more about you.
Yeah. You said something very interesting. Sometimes it's not about what we are getting, but who we are becoming along the process. And success is something that we attract by becoming the person that we are. Because if we play small, we stay like in our comfort zone, I don't think we will attract like a lot of things. And like self-development, like searching for new things, becoming like life learners, I think that's the key to expand our horizon, like to discover new things.
100%.
What would
100%.
yeah what would you say are the key to transforming your life? Like if you have to say one thing in self-development, what was the major thing that transformed your life?
One thing. I mean, if I had to pick one thing that changed my life, it's constantly pushing my comfort zone, constantly challenging myself. It's not easy and it's not meant to be. I'm here to tell everyone that, and I'm honest, brutally honest. And that's the vulnerability part where I'm not hiding behind glamour and showing you that it happened overnight, because let's be honest, it doesn't. You've got to tell the truth. You've got to show people that if you work hard, you can create the life that you want. So outside my comfort zone. There you go. I lost my train of thought. But yes, so constantly pushing yourself out of your comfort zone and almost seeing life as a game, as a challenge, because every time you level up, you unlock another level. It's like a game. You will continue to strive for the better version of yourself until you reach the goals that you are striving for. So I think learning to get comfortable with being uncomfortable is a skill that everyone should learn. And I know fear is something we all have, and there's no fear without courage. So you have to make sure that you don't allow that fear to trap you, because otherwise that's bondage. If it doesn't scare you, you're not going to grow. And if you're not going to grow, you're not going to progress. And if you're not progressing, you're not going to be happy. So people who are unhappy, reflect on why, and you will see that you're either not growing or you're in a position that's not serving you, and you need to change something up. So
Yeah, I think going outside of a comfort zone is so. I will share my little story. It's like for me, before to put myself out there on a podcast, I was like, what will people say? OMG, I don't know, XYZ say. But the moment I said, Mary Grace, it's your passion. You want to share people's stories. Just put it out there. Don't mind what people will say. I think that's when like magic happens. When we put aside all of like people's opinion or any conception we've created in our mind, that's where we finally, I think we can fly. And talking about this, I know you've been reading The Mountain Is You, and that book has been like life-changing because I didn't realize all of the ways we could like self-sabotage ourselves. Perfectionism, for instance. Before putting something out there, I was like, Mary Grace, it's not good at all. Mary Grace, no. When I read something, it said, you know what? Put it out there. From there, you can edit, you can polish. And that was a spark that made a spark. And I was like, yes. So there are a lot of ways that we are sabotaging our success because we all have gifts. So what was your relationship with self-sabotage, and like how do you go pause for it on a daily basis?
So there's no lying that we all self-sabotage constantly. You cannot avoid it because like I said, if I'm going to keep trying to push myself out of my comfort zone, my brain is going to keep telling me, no, we don't want to do that because our brains are there to keep us safe. So subconsciously, you don't realize that you're doing things that are preventing you from going where you want to go. My biggest problem I'll say is definitely perfectionism. So I relate with you. I always want things to be perfect. And I started YouTube on my journey of trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And I was creating and editing. Girl, I spent hours upon hours editing. I don't know if you've seen them, but I'll send you a link.
We can relate.
I'm very Yes, I'm very proud of every single masterpiece that I created, but that took so many hours, and it was not sustainable. You with not and procrastination. That's something else we all do. You sit on your phone, and before you know it, you're scrolling, and then you're like, oh my god, it's been 30 minutes, an hour. What have I been doing? When you are your own boss, when you are an entrepreneur, a business owner, nobody's telling you hello, break time's over. You have to be the person to tell yourself that. So I still struggle with it every day. I have to be aware and catch myself doing it. And the best way to explain is your vision for what you want and the excitement behind that has to be so much greater than the fear of or the time it's going to take to edit a video or whatever it is that's holding you back. So I always have to remind myself why I'm doing this. What is my purpose? What is my reason for having a business? Who do I want to help? What do I want to achieve in the long term? Not just for me, for my family, for my future family. And whenever I think of my why, I get so emotional. And it pulls on my heartstrings. I'm a very emotional person. So I'll start crying and then I'm like, okay, that's all I needed. Let me just get back to work. So I think it's something we will all battle with, no matter who we are, no matter how successful you get. And they might, I think your self-sabotaging behaviors might even change over time, but being aware of what yours specifically are is number one. That's the first step. And it all goes back to self-awareness. Yeah. You need to know you first. If you don't even know you're self-sabotaging, then you're in big trouble. and you will eventually figure it out. But yeah, that's part of life, isn't it?
Yeah, knowing your why, I think it's the foundation. Like, if you don't have a why, it's like, what will ground you? I think having your why and your purpose, and I know your purpose, one of your purpose is to help your family retire early. And I think it's amazing, but I know you will be able to do that because you have the drive, you have the passion. Oh, you're so inspiring.
Thank you.
You said something interesting is you have a why, but what are the systems that you've built like on a daily basis, apart from having like your morning routine, reading, listening to podcasts? Because I don't know if you've read like Atomic Habits. I think it's a life-changing book, and every entrepreneur needs one of it. He says something interesting. He says that the results of our life is the lagging measure of our habits. The outcomes is just a manifestation of the behavior that preceded them. And I think that is so powerful because if you think about it, every little steps that you do is like you increase it by 1% every day. It's like a compound effect. What is the system that you've built? Because I know you have your little office, you go in the morning, you work on your own. So what are the system you've built in order to operate on the level that you are? Because I know your schedule is packed, you have meetings here and there, you're traveling the world. What are your systems? I'm really curious.
Yeah, so you kind of hit the nail on the head in terms of, I would say I haven't really perfected it to the point where I'm personally happy, and I fall off my routines every so often. And that's because I'm the type of person, when I get really into working on something, I want to give it my all. And that can mean staying up till 2. And then if I stay up till 2 because I have the energy, when you love something, you find the energy to do it. Some people ask, like, how are you up till 2? I'm like, I don't know. I was so awake. I was in creative mode, creating stuff, in the middle of the night. And if that happens, I cannot do my morning routine and wake up at 5 a.m. Like, that's not possible. So every now and then, I do fall off my routine. But my ideal, let's say, day would be waking up early, working out as soon as possible, doing my reading, listening to a podcast, my cycle to the gym, I'm listening to something new. I'm educating myself. And then when I get into the gym, I switch it to my music. I focus on my workout, at least 30, 40 minutes, get back home, do my reading, have my breakfast, have my coffee. That morning routine has, it sets me up for the perfect day. Exercise gets me energized, and there's just something about having a routine that just really works. But when it comes to my daytime and what I do for work, it differs every day. If I do have a lot of calls versus days that I don't have it, I use a lot of online resources to organize my scattered brain because I feel like my brain constantly has a million open tabs. I'm thinking of, my clients, and I'm thinking of prospective clients, and I'm thinking of my marketing for social media, and I'm thinking of what I need to do for my accountants because I need to pay my tax soon. And then I need to think of, oh, what am I going to do for, next month? There's a lot to think about. So I wouldn't even say that I've got it like perfected, but I know what works and what doesn't work. What works is having a really solid morning routine and then breaking up my day. So a little tip is putting alarms on your phone for everything. So I put an alarm for when I'm gonna open up and check like the financial markets. I have an alarm for when I'm going to go have a call. I'll have an alarm for 30 minutes till you have that call. So my phone is constantly going off. So that's a little trick so that you can sit down for a solid 30-minute session, get what you need to do done, take it off your list, and then, in between, maybe procrastinate. You need to every now and then. But I would say, yeah, those are little good tips that I have in my structure for my day, but I'm still very much a mess. And I think sometimes you need to have that. You can't have too strict of a schedule. You need to find what works for you. And I think each entrepreneur works differently. For me, it's the morning routine that's key. Other than that, I'm pretty flexible with my days and how I want to work.
Nice. It's like you need to have some type of discipline, but not to be harsh on yourself. It's like today you were not able to tick all the things that was on your to-do list. That's fine. Like a little tap on the back. You did at least half. It's like I think you need to encourage yourself along the way to I don't know, to pull yourself up when you fall forward. Because I think when you fall forward, that's when you will learn a lot of lessons. And that's very interesting because you work on yourself. It's like you rely on your own. So that's remarkable. And you created everything on your own.
Freedom. The freedom is why I wanted to be a business owner. I personally, I feel like maybe it stems to this being third culture and having my entire life I've had so much going on from many different directions. And I think then going into the corporate world and being told what to do and, having set routines and having like very small closed boundaries on someone who is so open and creative and I want to be flexible, it was a clash. So without even realizing, I don't think I was ever made to work a 9 to 5. I think that everything that I like, everything that embodies who I am personally fits being an entrepreneur. And, everyone has their strengths and their weaknesses. And when you know what your strengths are and you find something that works for you, the rest will fall into place. You fail forward, like you said. Don't be afraid to fail, because you cannot succeed without failure. You have to take the mistakes. Mistakes are must takes. I love that.
Nice. What would you say is like the free skills or qualities that an entrepreneur should have? What do you think like these are important for someone to get started?
Oh, that's a difficult one because I feel like there's a lot of skills entrepreneurs need to have. Discipline is number one. 100%. You need to have discipline to be able to stay within a structure and framework in order to succeed. I don't think you can succeed without being able to have discipline as a foundation. So discipline, I would say, I don't know if flexibility is up there, but you need adaptability. You need to be able to adapt for sure. The world is constantly changing. Innovation, social media, the internet, technology. As an entrepreneur in 2022, you need to adapt quick. Like TikTok, I was scared of it at first, but now I love it. But I still feel like I'm trying to figure out how the algorithm works. But yeah, you need to adapt. So discipline, you need to learn how to adapt, and you have to have very strong sense of purpose. What is your purpose with your business? Not anyone. And the thing is, some people work fine with a 9 to 5. It's okay if that's what you want and the type of person that you are, it might fit you. Some people think they like the idea of being a business owner and entrepreneur, but it doesn't mean that you will succeed. And why do you want to be a business owner? It's not just so you can lie on the couch until, I don't know, whatever time, sleep in. It should be so much more than that. You should be bringing something to this world, something of value, something that will make an impact, and you should be solving a problem that you have found. So I'll just put that under purpose. It's the third one.
Okay. And like taking the first step for people that are listening to you right now, they have a desire to start a business, for instance, but they have the fear of taking that leap. You see, what's something that helped you
with fear?
Yeah, like just it's just that one little step. It's just like creating that social media page, that TikTok page, that, I don't know, company portfolio, that plan, or investing your money. It's like, it's just one little step, but it's like a mountain. So what would you like, what I don't know, something that helped you to take that little step?
So with me, it's a very little step, and I found this yesterday in my notepad from last year. I just created, I'm a very pen to paper type of girl, like old school, I like to journal, I like to make notes, I have notepads everywhere. I probably should at some point invest in an iPad, but I prefer the pen to paper. There's something about it, and what I did when I wasn't sure what direction to take, I created a spider diagram. When you draw something, a circle in the middle, and then you like draw out little legs, whatever you want to call it. And I wrote all of the different things that I was interested in. I wrote all the different industries that I would like to go into at some point in my career. I created a career blueprint, my unique one, like I mentioned earlier. And in the center is your why you want to do it, and who you are as a person. And all the things you're interested in, you just write it out. I think we live in a world where everyone is slowly moving towards being multi-hyphenate. I think that's the word, where you have a profession. So I'm an by profession, but now I'm a business owner doing something completely different, coaching and mentoring. And you can have all these little, segments, or let's just call them buckets, that you can dip into throughout your life, so that when something approaches you, like yourself with this podcast, on that on that spider diagram, I looked in it and I wrote coach, like coaching. I wrote business owner. I wrote something about health and fitness, and then I put media in, or publishing in one bit. And then I put podcasts, events, live events, online things, an ebook, digital book. I was brainstorm and dream without limits. If no one was there to tell you, you cannot do that, that's not realistic, forget all of that and dream as if you're a 5-year-old again. If you want to fly to the moon, or you want to be an astronaut, write that down. Just writing it down and getting all the things that you're good at, you're passionate about, you like onto paper, eventually you will find that sweet spot between what you're good at, your skill set, what you're passionate about, and finding something that could become your business. And that's something that's going to be unique to you. So I would start off with a little spider diagram, which is like a brainstorm pretty much.
What you said, I totally relate with that because I have like a little notebook as well. And as you said, a lot of people may not realize the power of writing. I remember I read a book like years ago. It said that we have so many thoughts in our brain, so many ideas that, you know, your brain does not know this thought is more important than the other one. And by writing it, putting your intention on paper, you're bringing like some type of magic to it. And this is so true because same as you, I was brainstorming ideas. I wanted to create a website. I wanted to do a podcast. I wanted to do this and that. And then afterwards, I was like, what little actions can I do to achieve that? And I think writing, having a journal, putting your dreams on paper is so powerful. And sometimes we manifest it without knowing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it is a powerful tool.
100%.
Writing,
I agree.
yeah. This sometimes when you talk about that with other people, they may not realize, but trust us, have a notepad and write your goals.
Yes, I think, I mean, I'm sure there's science behind it as well, with the brain registering more and remembering better by putting pen to paper. Like, I know nowadays we're like this most of the time or like this, but writing it down slows you down to write each letter. So the time you're taking to think about it, you're involving your subconscious brain, and it's very powerful. You will definitely remember things you don't even know you're going to remember, and you're going to subconsciously start taking the right steps and actions towards what it is you personally want to create for yourself.
Yeah. And when you read about, I think, the life of successful people, you see that pattern. They did like journaling, they read a lot, and it's like if they did that and it worked, why won't it work for you? And I think that
Exactly.
that's something to take, like journaling, affirmations, like I am. I
Mm-hmm.
think it is
Mm-hmm.
powerful. The I am.
I am, exactly. I'm so happy and grateful. That's something I write down every single day. And I say it a lot as well. You have to be present. You have to live in the now. Be grateful for where you are, despite what has happened to you, whatever may have happened to you in the past. It does not define you. It does not define your future. What is important is right now, what you can do in this very moment. Sometimes when I feel overwhelmed, I just think, what small action can I take right now? Because being overwhelmed is something you have to deal with all the time as an entrepreneur. You have to adapt and you have to get used to the fact that things are going to be stressful. But focusing on the very moment that you are in and how you can do something tiny towards what you want to do is definitely a first step.
That's true. The power of the now. I think
Mm-hmm.
that's really important. The power and being grateful. I think there's something about it scientifically. It's that I think it increases your telomeres whenever you're grateful
Mm-hmm.
for. So there is something scientific behind it as well. And being
Mm-hmm.
grateful for what we already have instead of, chasing and chasing what we don't have. It's
You can't chase. What's that saying? You don't chase. You can't chase. You
Yeah,
have
you
to
can't
attract.
chase something that is running away. What's the point? True.
If you chase something, it will run away from you.
Yeah,
And if you don't, it actually comes towards you.
yeah,
Definitely.
true. I wanted to talk about like having several streams of income because I think you've learned a lot about it for the past 10 months and you have a lot of knowledge to
Mm-hmm.
share. And you
Mm-hmm.
said, you just said, I think it was today in your stories, you said something so interesting and beautiful. You said that having more than one source of income is a type of self-love. When
Mm-hmm.
I heard that, I was like, that's totally true. That's totally true. And you said that like paying paycheck by paycheck. And I think having like multiple source of income is your way to freedom. and it is a necessity. Tell us more about your journey around having several streams of income. Tell us more about it, maybe for those who don't know or maybe who are interested about the subject.
Yeah, I mean, we live in a world now where you see people making online income everywhere. So, why can't you? And that's what I thought when I kept seeing it. When you notice something and all of a sudden you see it everywhere, it could be, oh, the first time you hear about a Tesla, all of a sudden every car around the corner is a Tesla. It's the same thing with my journey of deciding I'm going to create multiple streams of income. As an engineer, you get paid very well, and I still lived paycheck to paycheck. But we live in a world where the more we earn, the more we spend. We are tempted, to buy things for ourselves and to pour into, you know, holidays and activities and nights out that don't really serve us. So that's the life that I lived, and I did live paycheck to paycheck. And I was very ignorant before I quit my job to the fact that you don't have to trade your time for money. I thought that the only way to make money is by trading time for it. But I also knew that on, but I get paid the exact same amount every month as an engineer, even if I stay till 12 at night working overtime. So this can't be right. Like I need to get paid more, but I didn't work for a company that gave you compensation for working overtime. And a lot of companies don't work like that. So if you work several jobs, some people will know what it's like to struggle to work three jobs. You are constantly trading time for money. But what wealthy and rich people do is invest their money. They learn how to make money work for them so that they don't have to work for money till they die. And that's the difference between the poor, the middle class, and the rich. The rich know this, but we are not taught that, not in school, not by our parents, because, let's face it, most people are not wealthy. There's only a tiny percentage of the world that have used this to their advantage. And as I started to study the successful people and learn about them and learn about investing, I became obsessed and so passionate about it. And that's what I want to share with the world, that you can do it too. Not only can you do it through a business, but you can do it by investing. And investing, of course, it's going to take sacrifice, putting a certain amount that you earn to the side. But that money can work harder for you than you can for money. And that's something a lot of people don't know. I didn't know that. I'm going to be honest. I mean, I heard about investing, but the concept of it didn't understand. I just thought it's something rich people did. So, in terms of, I think you asked like how my journey went with
Yeah,
investing or creating multiple streams.
yeah.
So I started learning or diving into TikTok. TikTok all of a sudden started showing me e-commerce, drop shipping, having your own online business, investing, trading. I wanted to try it all, but I didn't know where to start. So I started with education. Educate yourself, get financial literacy. That is step one. And so that's what I help people do. I actually coach and mentor them while they're in their journey of learning these new skills, this new knowledge. And like I said, having more than one stream is a form of self-love because you're protecting yourself. It is no longer an option to have more than one. Since the pandemic, that's something everybody has learned because you can get fired like this. Your life can flip upside down and you have nothing. Imagine relying on one source of income, one company, and then they, even if you worked for them for 40 years or 30 years, they will just cut you and you're just another number to them. You might think that you're loyal to them, but you are just another number. And to protect yourself, to give yourself financial stability, you have to learn how to create more than one stream of income. And that's something that I want everyone in the entire world to learn about because, like I said, it's protecting you and your family and for the long term.
And it's what you do on your social media each day, like you remind us, okay, you know, if they can do that, you can do that as well. And I think it's very important. And I think one of the great books about it is Rich Dad Poor Dad. It's all about financial literacy. I think everyone who read that book, their life changed. What would you
Yeah.
say are the other resources that can help someone to hop on that bandwagon, and like, you can do that as well? What are the other resources that helped you?
So Rich Dad Poor Dad was the first book that I read, and it was before I decided I wanted to create multiple streams. It really just made me think, I need to do this. How am I going to start? I want to get into it. I have the time to learn. I want to be a sponge. And that was the first book. And then I started listening to podcasts and YouTube. You can find everything on YouTube. Start typing investing or, anything in Rich Dad Poor Dad. You could probably even watch all these interviews, Robert Kiyosaki. I listened to podcasts. I read also, there are two other books actually. The Psychology of Money is one, and another one is Think and Grow Rich.
Yeah.
I have not read Think and Grow Rich yet, but I'm getting to it, and it's on my to-do list. I have a lot of books that I keep adding, but I think continuing to learn from people who done it is the best way. Books, podcasts, if you like videos, those are great sources. And also reaching out to younger people like myself. I started 10 months ago. So I'm not far from you, the average person. I just started. It's the beginning of my journey too, but so much has changed in 10 months. So imagine what you can do in 1 year, in 5 years, in 10 years. You don't have to be intimidated to reach out to someone like me, whereas it's hard to find Robert Kiyosaki and ask him questions. But also, I would say find networking events, find conferences and training. Now that COVID is pretty much over, I mean, in Sweden it is, we don't have any restrictions anymore. Go to these type of events, shake hands with people. We have missed human interaction. You never know who you're going to meet. Yes, you have the internet, you can hide behind that and not be shy, but build connections with people, meet them in real life, ask them questions, and find a real life mentor. You can find online mentors, but find one in real life too that you can relate to.
Mm-mm. And I see, like, you do, like you said, something interesting is about go to events and everything. And now with the life that you were able to build on your own, you are able to book for a ticket to go to America and to go and see like different events, and like connecting with different people, going to the events where you have the leaders in the industry that are talking and sharing the experience. Out of all of these, what would you say is the biggest takeaway? Like
From the
something
events
that
and
changed you?
from meeting people.
Yeah.
I know straight away. I'm like, I know. The biggest thing that an event does for you is remind you that you are no different to these people. We are not different. There are people who you hear their stories and they've gone from rags to riches. If they can do it, why can you not? They came from, terrible backgrounds, drug abuse, trauma, poor, like environment, going to jail, and they've been able to create this whole life for themselves. So if they can do it, why can't you? That's the first thing that I told myself. If these people can do it, so can I. And they are open to share their journeys. They're open to share their lessons. When you learn from their lessons, you can shortcut your own journey. They've made mistakes for a reason. That's why you reach out and you find coaches and mentors who can inspire you so that you can fast track you don't have to make the same mistakes that they did. I think that's something that's really important. But what else? I think there's something else that I really take from events. Events change lives, and they say that for a reason. Being in a room and feeling the energy of someone who their story out to you, and then being able to walk up to them after and saying thank you and building a connection. The internet can't do that for you. Reading a book can't do that for you. Listening to their voice in a podcast cannot do that for you. So I highly recommend events, real life things. Pandemic's over. I'm so tired of it. I'm so happy that we can have that kind of interaction again. So make the most of it. They do change lives.
Yeah. And it's all about investing in yourself. Sometimes we have the fear of, I'm spending money to go in another country and like listen to another person talking, and the amount of wealth, like the amount of knowledge that you've gained through these, it's like it changes your life.
The value, it's invaluable. And that's something I learned from rich and successful people. They tell you, pay the money. When you pay attention. That's something I heard in a podcast recently. When you pay attention. And you're not just paying for knowledge and value, you're going to walk away with a newfound motivation and energy to continue doing what you're doing. So it's 100% worth the investment, and everyone needs to do it. Invest in yourself. You are your greatest asset. And the thing is, time is our most precious asset. So I always tell people time is of essence. Like the sooner you start, the better. Our days are numbered. You don't know when your last day is. Live your best life, but live it to the point where you're actually growing towards where you want to go. And at least for me, my biggest fear, I don't want to look back at my life and think, what if I had done that? I'm scared of that than death. And when you're not afraid of death, you will live life fully. So yeah, that is number one for me. I don't want to look back and say, what if I had done that? That's not going to be me.
And what's amazing about like your journey, it's like, as you several times you said, like you try to fill up your cup, and you fill up your cup to be able to pour into everyone's cup by sharing your knowledge, by sharing what are the things you've gained. And I think you're serving your community the best way possible. And anyone who's like interested in maybe to, dig deep into that industry, the investment and everything, I think you can be our little mentors, as you said.
I love it. Yes, of course.
What does it like bring you, like how do you feel about like sharing your knowledge to your community? Like, is it like a daily motivation for you? How important is it to share whatever you are learning?
It's right on the top of why I do what I do. I fell into the coaching part because I found that people were approaching me. I was in my learning process of trading and investing and sharing, what I was learning. So people started asking me, and the platform I was using, they wanted to know how do I get started. And the people that I met as I started, learning these new skills, people start asking me, can you explain, or how do you do this, or how do you manage your time? I have work and I never find the time to. All of a sudden, I started advising people as a coach, and I thought, hold on a second, if I'm already doing this naturally, why try and make a career out of it? Because I actually get so much joy from helping, from giving. And it's so cliche, they say the more you give, the more you get. And the receiver actually gets so much more. And that's, to me, what fulfillment feels like. I didn't feel fulfilled working my 9 to 5, sometimes even 9 to 9 at night as an engineer. I felt like a human robot sitting at a desk all day, not communicating with people. And I think human interaction, helping other people, making an impact is the greatest thing that you can do on this earth in your lifetime. If you can create impact and leave people with love and more knowledge and more value, then I've done my part. That's why I prioritize that every day. I show up with intent. I show up to give value, to a servant leader. That's my ultimate goal. And I really truly do believe when you level up to that, the more you will receive in abundance in all forms. So it's my number one priority every day.
Amazing. Yeah. And what would you say is like your next goal? So now you've been able to, create a community. you are helping people, you're coaching people, you are like giving out your knowledge. What's your next goal for your business?
For my business in particular, I want to keep growing my community and the people that I'm serving and helping. At the moment, I have a goal of helping 10 people quit their 9 to 5s and find what it is that they're passionate about, and creating their, unique career. So far, I've done that for 2 people, and it's only what,
Wow.
in February. It's not even March yet.
Amazing.
So I'm very proud about that. Um, but it's you to serve, business wise, goal wise, growth. Growth for this year is probably my key theme: growth and expansion, because it's something that I feel the world needs. There is a gap in the market. We are not taught any of this, and it will change your life. And I want to keep changing lives. If I could change 2,000 lives this year, that would be amazing. That would be my goal.
That's great. And um, I had a question in my mind, and I totally so
I can add to that a little bit, because I'd say the benefit as well of having an online business is that the internet, you can reach people all over the world. Look at me in Sweden and you in Mauritius. How amazing is that? I'm so blessed and grateful that I can use this tool to build a community, to build my business, and to build, generational wealth. That is amazing. I think everyone should utilize what we have and use it to their advantage, rather than use it as a distraction to forget your problems. That's what I use it for. And I'm I'm very grateful that I decided to do this, and I will keep chasing, you know, success and growth this entire year. But yeah, I highly recommend everyone who uses social media to find a way to monetize, or to find a way to use the internet to create another stream of income.
great. Oh, that was like an interesting conversation. A lot to digest and think about. As I
Mm-hmm.
said, you are like your words of wisdom, very inspiring. And I know that you will keep inspiring people. And I hope that our conversation will get people to come and see you and maybe come into contact with you, asking you questions, because that's the most important thing. I think you
Yeah,
are someone that is very approachable, and I know that you will respond to people's message. And
all the time. Yeah.
so yeah, if someone is like interested to know more, you invite them to get into contact with you.
Yes, exactly. But thank you so much for, inviting me to come speak with you, to just talk. I really, really enjoyed this. It's a first for me, and I think one of many, hopefully. I,
Exactly.
I was a little bit nervous, I'm not gonna lie, but I think just getting into being comfortable and just being open and talking, with Instagram and stories, a lot of the time you can remake it if you don't like it.
Yeah.
Whereas when you're talking to someone like this, you've got to really think of the words and how you want to say it. So this, something else to grow with. So thank you so much. I'm grateful to have been here, and I appreciate you and your time.
Oh, thank you. You are such an inspiration. So it was such an honor to have you here. And I wanted to say something like, what would be your last word? Like, someone wants to change his life today. What would you tell the person?
That's a good one. If I could tell someone who wants to change their life today, one thing I would say, it's better to live than lost. Is that a saying? I feel like that's a saying. You don't, like I said, you don't want to live a life you look back at and regret. So be brave, just take one tiny, small steps. It doesn't have to be extreme. You don't have to wake up one day and say, I quit my job. Like, it's a slow process. But once you have planted the seed, the thought in your mind, you have a vision for yourself, you decided intellectually that that is what you want. Now, we are not just intellectual beings, we're also spiritual beings. So emotion has to come into it. When you have your intellectual part and your emotional part coming together, that's when action starts to happen. So you can think that you want to quit your job, you can think you want to start a business, but no action will be taken until emotion is attached to that. So that takes time. Now, you can have the emotion and you can have the idea, but it still takes time. I know this from experience too. And fear is one of the things that will hold you back for a long time until enough is enough. That's the process you will go through. And eventually, the thought and the emotion will become physical. But it takes you to take the action. So take action, conquer your fear, and yeah, don't live a life with regrets.
Great. And where can people connect with you?
So I am on Instagram and on TikTok and on YouTube as well. You can find me on at Emelie, not Emily. I feel like I should spell the first Emily because it's a Swedish spelling.
All your
I'm sure
details
that you
down below.
you will tag it because my Emily is spelled differently. But yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Emelie. Again, it was such a
Thank
pleasure
you.
having you. And maybe we can have like in a few years or months or like have another chat and see the evolution. I'm so grateful.
Definitely.
Thank you so much. And I will keep on looking at your work and stay connected because you're someone which brings a lot out of other people. And keep thriving, keep up on your dream. And thank you so much for
Thank
your time.
you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank
Thank
you.
you.